Welcome to InformNation, where knowledge is not information until it's shared. I'm your host, Aixa Rodriguez. Today, we are lucky to have Dermott Myrie, who is a teacher, an activist, a chapter leader of his union, and the 2019 UFT presidential candidate on the More UFT slate. Welcome, Myrie.
Thank you, Aixa. Thanks.
Myrie, for those watching that don't know what MORE is or what a caucus is in the United Federation of Teachers, could you tell us what MORE is about?
Good. So all viewers, welcome. MORE is a movement of rank and file educators. It's a caucus within the UFT, the United Federation of Teachers. So a caucus, I'm just going to make it simple, give you an example. A caucus is a group within an organization that has a specific interest or interests that are addressed or asked to be addressed. So take Congress, for example. We have the Black Caucus in Congress in Washington, D.C. We also have the Hispanic Caucus. These caucuses have specific interests that they ask for in the Congress itself. We know Congress provides things for each community. However, there are some issues that are not addressed or these people would like to see addressed. So to bring it back to us organically, the movement of rank and file educators are a group of us who are making sure that our social justice issues are addressed. So it's not up here now, it's below my shirt, but the social justice issues are addressed. Racial justice, environmental justice, educational justice, all these pieces are addressed.
So there's two hashtags that MORE members are using on social media. One is NYC Schools Deserve, and the other one is Reclaim Our Schools NYC. So what is it that New York schools deserve that they're not getting? And what does it mean to reclaim the schools?
Good, so I'll first talk about deserve. So New York City schools deserve a lot of things. So as a member of the National Black Lives Matter organizing group, we are demanding that our schools get the following. One, our schools deserve more counselors, not more police officers, safety agents. Our schools deserve Black and Latinx teachers since they're disappearing. Our schools deserve Black and ethnic studies. Our schools deserve discipline policies or proactive measures to deal with discipline and not just zero tolerance discipline. So our schools deserve a lot of things. In regarding reclaiming our schools,
yes.
Reclamation. So we need to make sure that our schools are in the hands of the communities that they serve.
What do you mean by communities?
So to bring it back, so if you listen to the news, watch the news, viewers, you will see mayoral control is a big issue. So you have people like Corey Johnson, Speaker of the City Council, who's saying we need community control, or
as opposed to mayoral control.
As opposed to mayoral control. So a lot of people saying they need to have voices. You have communities saying we need cultural, relevant education in our schools. So it's not just the mayor. The mayor is the leader of the city. However, every community is organic. Every community has a schema. Every community has a personality. Mm-hmm. So in your community, you may have a lot of Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, and so on.
So the schools should reflect that.
What's going on. Okay. So the communities also need to have a voice in it, and that's what we're saying. So voice.
Speaking of voice,
yeah.
What made you decide to run for UFT president in 2019?
So many things. I'll just start with the first priority, the disappearance of Black and Latinx teachers. We're here, this is a publication from Teachers Unite in 2012, and there's so many publications that talk about the disappearance of Black and Latino teachers. It's happening because of a funding policy called fear funding. Fair student funding. We'll go into that later on. That's one thing. Another reason why I decided to run was our hiring practices. Who are we hiring? Are people cultural competent? In the contract we just came up with, there are going to be psychological evaluations. I don't know if the viewers are aware of that. So that's another piece. And the most important piece why I'm running is the abuse that happens to our members. by administrators. It's systemic, it's in all schools. Mental health, mental wellness is the thing. And as we here sitting talking, I'm mental flossing myself, clearing my mind as to say what's the best thing for members when they come under administrative abuse. Also, the abuse from the testings that are tied to teachers' evaluations. Yeah.
So, in terms of what the UFT needs to do to actually better serve its members, what do you think are the biggest issues?
I just want to say to the public, I am pro-union. Unionism runs in my blood. Unionism also is important to me. We're also pro-union, but I need to make it clear. Having a dissenting voice doesn't mean that you're anti-union. So that's the message been getting out from the movement of rank and file educators, that we are dissenting. We are dissenters, we are right. But at the same time, we need to make sure that our members' rights are protected, our students are protected. As our slogan says, our students' learning conditions are working conditions. There's no separation, there's no difference. So the UFT needs to address a lot of things. I don't know if I'm going to have the time to go through all of these things, but they need to make sure due process has happened. New members are respected. Teachers on a whole, educators on the job needs to be respected. It's all about respect.
So you mentioned dissenting voice, and you have also mentioned a couple of things of being involved in Black Lives Matter, Education Week, Week of Action, other things that you've been doing as an activist. So what is it that needs to be talked about when it comes to having a voice within the union? Recently, there was a contract that was ratified very quickly, and not every segment of the UFT membership was happy with what they received. And one particular group decided not to ratify its contract. Having a dissenting voice talking about this, what exactly is the UFT not doing to reach all of its members?
Good. So as a member of the negotiating team for twice, you have an invisible duct tape on your mouth. You can't speak about what happened in the negotiation room. But however, I'll just summarize and say this. What happened here with this new contract, it came out in October to us, the negotiating members. And hurriedly the next day, they had a meeting to convene on the High School of Professional and Industries on the west side. Wasn't done in the UFT headquarters. And at that meeting, after school, members were asked to come to vote to ratify the contract. There were no special directives that say you have to vote for it, but members come to vote. So what happens out of that was we did not get the contract. Nobody knows what the full contract was till approximately 3:30 p.m. that evening.
That's not enough time.
So that's not enough time. As educators, we read, we ingest, digest materials, we regurgitate, we look, analyze, we look at materials. So we didn't get enough time. We asked, voices were raised about it. A lot of people weren't happy. The OT/PT folks, occupational therapists and physical therapists, people weren't happy. Paraprofessionals weren't happy. And they were just pushing, like the president, Michael Mulgrew, he made this nice PowerPoint that showed how paraprofessionals, for example, if they were getting arrested, they would
But what does that, what?
If paraprofessionals were arrested, they would now get paid while they're being investigated, which was
That was what they put in the contract?
Yes. So if they're arrested now, they get paid. Before they didn't get paid because paraprofessionals there are people that really do a lot of work. They are not on pay parity, and that's something that we need to talk about, not just something about
So
getting arrested.
that's two big important groups, PTs and OTs, who are serving our most vulnerable students, and paraprofessionals who are also serving our most vulnerable students were not happy with what they got in the contract, and then
Yes.
didn't have any time to respond to it, to digest it, to their dissenting voice or their opinions. There was no democracy there.
Yeah, there's none. There's no democracy within the UFT. I'll just say it proudly, listeners, viewers, you can hear me speaking clearly. There's no democracy. So we are the people in red that demand this democracy. So, for example, when we mentioned that this was too expedited, there was no, oh, we got to get this done before November. Hello, Noviembre is elections. So I don't know which party you're affiliated with, But why are you
So,
running an election like you're a political action committee of some party trying to get a contract in? Doesn't sound
that sounds like
mental flossing.
that sounds like a conflict of interest because we have mayoral control.
Yeah.
The timeline for ratifying this had more to do with politics than it had to creating a document that everybody can be satisfied with as they serve the children of New York City.
And if I may tell you more, I don't mean to be rude. Democracy, you want to talk about democracy? Let me give you an example. The father of the FEE funding lawsuit, Robert Jackson, who just ran.
Yes. CFE.
Yes,
Robert
if
Jackson.
you ask me a question, a person who is friendly to students, parents who demanded that funds come from Albany when he filed this lawsuit to come to New York City, if you ask me a rhetorical question, did the United Federation of Teachers endorse this gentleman?
Oh, they didn't?
Your answer might be wrong. They did not. They endorsed and said his opponent, Marisol Alcantraz, who is an IDC member.
Wow.
Who has been doing a lot of work in Albany up to defeat the Democrats and not having anything done in Albany. So this is who the UFT endorsed.
Definitely politics and the UFT, there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Yeah.
And so we're going to take a break right now. We'll be back shortly.
Maria, so how's work?
It was fourth period biology. Our students just weren't getting how easily viruses spread. So Miss Bell and I had them role play a zombie virus outbreak. By the time they had all learned the lesson, all the living were dead. Hey, how's your job going?
That big sales meeting I planned? Next year. I might get to go.
Cool.
When I was in high school, I was physically at school, but my mind wasn't at school. I had problems at home, and that's hard when you feel like you're doing it alone. That's when I met our niece, my mom, as I'll call her. She started helping me a little bit, like, Nia, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but your future is more important. She's my strength. Just being a support for those hard days and those hard nights, not giving up on me. Thank you to my mama. I wouldn't have did this if it wasn't for her. Today is for my mama and everybody who had my back. It takes a village to help somebody get their diploma. Some people would think, well, maybe it's really not that big of a deal, but it really is. It changes your whole life.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. How could you not love him?
Welcome back to InformNation. I am your host, Aixa Rodriguez. We're here with Dermott Myrie, who is the 2019 UFT candidate for president on the More UFT slate, and we've been talking about education in New York City. So, Myrie, we just finished talking about politics in New York City, and we've been talking about, in the break, this rising up of teachers across the nation in the Red for Ed movement. What is more involved with? How is more connected to the national movement of teachers?
So we are happily connected to a big group called the UCOR. It's United Caucus of Rank and File Educators, UCOR. So we are groups within major unions that are caucuses that fight for social justice. So if you see the red wave, teachers are telling you in Oakland, it's not just salary pay. LA, not just salary pay. Arizona, North Carolina, Denver, and it's coming up to Oregon, and it may be here soon. We don't know yet. All right, so
it's not just pay. What is it?
It's social justice. It's what our students deserve. It's what our communities deserve. Counseling in schools, funding for resources, materials, funding for specialists, interventionists, community voice,
So community voice, are you speaking of parents and students?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So, so what are the major issues that teachers, parents, and students in New York City can unite around?
Okay, so first thing is the school closures. So we were part of a group that's been fighting for years with Educators Against Displacement. We had our own group formed within Moore called Cascade, the campaign against school closings and displacement. All right, in education, Cascade. So we've been fighting the powers that be that's closing our schools when there are systemic pieces in place that needs to be addressed. Racism, oppression, systemic support, not there. So you pull people up, not keep them down, close people out. So that's what we've been doing. So we're part of the grassroots. We have built so many alliances with AQE, Alliance for Quality Education, CEJ, Coalition for Educational Justice, DSC, Dignity in School Campaign, Teachers Unite, NY Core, NICOR. We have formed so many alliances, building bridges with groups, which is what our parent groups do as well. This is what we're fighting for: social justice issues in our schools, voice, curriculum that matches our students, the demographics.
Could you expand upon that curriculum that matches the
Good.
students?
So the communities have been faced with this issue where their students are being taught subjective education, for example, in social studies, trauma education. So slavery, Abraham Lincoln, the savior, and he's saving people. More power to him. I don't know, we'd have to check the facts. So to bring it back, we need to talk about, is it relevant? Was that really his point of helping slaves? Do we want to know about slavery? Yes, but it should not just be the highlight. Where's Black Wall Street in our books? Where are these towns in North Carolina that were burnt down when you have a whole segment of blacks setting up establishments, the Latino folks who did a lot of work, and we have the Asians as well that need to be highlighted. And must pull a plug for my own colleague here, Gia Lee, who ran for the lieutenant gubernatorial position last November. And
Sounds like there's missing pieces
there's
in the
missing
curriculum.
pieces.
Like
so
a erasure.
We need to highlight those. We need to highlight those badly. So to bring it back, so we form alliances with these groups. We've been fighting now for 2 years to get culturally relevant curriculum, education. Finally, Natasha, CEJ, Zakia, AQE were able to pull together coalition groups, being at City Hall, being at Tweed all the time, campaigning with us and other groups as we stood, asked the mayor. The mayor did listen. I'm going to give him a plug. He did listen. Allocated $23 million so we could have some of our educators, supervisors get this anti-racist implicit bias training.
Well, this is an important topic, this anti-racist and implicit bias thing. In the news recently, in the past year or so, there have been some incidents with educators in New York City, in particular, with racist accusations. Could you tell us a little bit about those
Yes,
events?
so many things happen. Teachers, educators, supervisors pulling things away from people who are doing Black History Month celebrations. People doing black faces and all these things here. In these times, 2019 tells you something's going on. So we're not going to talk about the negatives, we're going to change the narrative. So that's why we're asking for in our classrooms, if there's a guy from Jamaica, Africa, he needs to have books there that Nobel laureates, people from these countries that wrote books, literary
So
pieces.
actual
in
curriculum, but the books, actually materials,
yes.
that's a concrete way
to do
of
it.
changing
That's
it.
step. So we have NYU, for example, not a plug. They have a cultural relevant scorecard that's done from NYU where students, teachers, educators, parents can analyze, can look at each curriculum, tests,
So it
and
looks
materials.
like you have a team together actually looking at the curriculum.
To make sure it's culturally appropriate, because some of these pieces are culturally wrong.
Culturally wrong.
So it's Eurocentric.
Not Eurocentric.
So we need to have it open. So to bring it back, in our classroom, so we build bridges with CEJ. and all of that groups doing with cultural relevance. It's not yet the way we want it to be, because teaching somebody how to be culturally relevant in a workshop is not going to help.
So it's not enough just to have a Band-Aid?
We need to talk about, you cannot put a Band-Aid on a heart surgery. No. So we need to talk about workshops alone, not going to do it. How are you working with community groups? And some principals, I love you all, I know those of you who are doing it. I've seen your work.
That's a good thing.
I've seen some of them, the faces in their schools. I've walked through a lot of these schools on my campaign as I run for UFT president. And these are some of the things that I'm going to bring to the forefront as a part of our group more, not just me as an individual, but just bring it but as a group. Another piece that we're looking at is the displacement.
Well, this is a big thing. Gentrification is what you're talking about?
Gentrification, you can say.
How does that impact education? Like, how does this, many people might see it as two separate issues.
It cannot, they're married. So you have gentrifiers coming into a neighborhood, and the neighborhood is flooded with speculators. There's not gold, it's real estate. So there are speculators coming in, cut this building down in Brooklyn or in the South Bronx or in Washington Heights or wherever it is, Inwood, or wherever it is, Lower East Side, Chinatown. I've been in this place. Let's build some high towers, displace these people who are there, put new people in, change the school systems, educators, adios, ciao, see you later.
So it's all connected.
It's all connected. So until we stick a pin and says, hey, halt, stop, pause, wait a minute.
So you're saying that real estate development has an impact on schools pushing out teachers?
Negatively, yeah.
And as well as displacing residents and the students in the schools?
Yes.
Wow. So you mentioned allies, building bridges, and Moore has allies that are parent activists, student activists. Could you tell us more about your allies and what they're fighting for? What is it that parents, students, and teachers can collaborate on?
So there's many different things here. So we have like cultural responsive education, which we have worked with CEJ. We have worked with AQE to get cultural responsive education in schools. They did implicit bias training. As I don't know if I said it before, but thanks to Mayor de Blasio, Chancellor Carranza, they have both listened. I give it to them. They have listened, and they have allocated this $23 million to train folks, educators, leadership in cultural relevant practices and implicit bias training, anti-racist training. However, that's not enough. So we work with the groups, parent groups, student groups, and they're saying there are other issues. It's not just training people at a workshop.
What are the other issues?
Other issues like sports. Not everybody has access to PSAL sports. New York City let them play. I've been asking about this for years. So it's not everybody play baseball, basketball. People want to play track, run track, badminton, play cricket.
So these are sports that are not
commonly played, but it's in the Olympics. We have competitions. We have the U.S. Open in Queens, which we should be able to take more students to trips there when the U.S. Open is in session, when students can see our tennis, so they can see what's going on. So in regards to equity, we have the Integrate NYC, really progressive base of students who are saying they need teachers of colors, educators of colors in their schools to make sure that they're being taught by somebody of a different race or ethnicity than them. It shouldn't be left up till when they get to the college level, then
to have that experience.
That contact, first contact, inappropriate. So to get this done, thanks to Danny Drum, Mark Traeger, Brad Lander, who hosts a hearing on December 17, 2017, and those students, they came out, oh, you should hear students' voices at the city council. That hearing ended about 6:30 p.m. that night. I was there to hear students having a voice. Also, I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before, but when I become president of the UFT, which I will, after this election, because people are kind of waking up now to understand that UFT has been silent on all these issues.
UFT hasn't taken any leadership.
They haven't taken any leadership. So this is what we do, the movement of rank and file educators, just like the UCORE parent organization. We meet with parents, we meet with groups on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and we have conversations as to what's going on. Last week, for example, we're just with AOC. We were with Diane Ravitch. We were in Queens. We're in Jackson Heights. We were there talking to the Jackson Heights parent group about what they need in our schools. This is the type of work we do. I saw so many people from the movement of rank and file educators, my friends, my allies, my colleagues there, speaking about what we need. Where was the UFT leadership? Absent.
Yes.
So these are the things that we need. We need students' voice. Students are saying it. The students are saying Black Lives Matter. The UFT silent, they don't want to say it. And even the other caucuses as well. New Action,
Sounds
Solidarity. Nobody wants to talk about Black Lives Matter at school.
Sounds like we have more to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we have to close this segment. Please stay tuned for more on this topic and our next episode of InformNation, where knowledge is not information until it's shared. I am your host, Aixa Rodriguez. Thank you for watching.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. At work or at play, you're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Oh, hey, she's cute. Nice going, man. Things are going great for you. You've earned a night out. Good drinks, good friends. Yeah, we can go ahead and call this a good night. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Not smart. Yeah, I saw that coming. Say goodbye to her. Ouch, that'll hurt your bank account. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. I hope you like eating frozen dinners. Alone. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.